The full release of Last Epoch is almost here. For many players, this is going to be the first taste of the game. So here are things I wish I knew when I started playing Last Epoch. Hey everyone, Valley here. These tips are for beginners and more or less for your first 20 to 30 hours with Last Epoch. So let's dive right into it. Let's start with a character screen. Last Epoch has 5 starting classes, and every single starting class has 3 different masteries with their own passives, skills and skill trees. You can only specialize in one mastery, but you're still able to invest some points into the other 2 masteries, which will give you the opportunity to create some very interesting builds. However, once you made your decision, both your starting class and mastery cannot be changed, so think carefully before you choose. I've also seen many questions in the in-game chat about when you're able to pick a mastery class, and the short answer is to just follow the campaign to unlock it. After picking your starting class, you might get the urge to look up leveling builds, but I highly recommend experimenting with your own builds. Last Epoch is very forgiving when it comes to respecs. You can respec passive points completely at the cost of some gold, and skill points can be partially refunded whenever you feel the need to switch things up. The many skill trees and synergies actually make it incredibly satisfying to experiment and work with certain skills yourself. When I played with a friend, it was especially cool to see how my holy aura buffed his minions, so I began to invest into it a little bit more. The campaign is not too difficult, so don't worry too much if you don't follow a build guide. Speaking of guides, there is a very comprehensive in-game guide. It has loads of information about crafting, status effects, endgame systems and more. It's an amazing starting point if you have certain questions about a game. It even has a search option to find things a little bit easier. However, you can always ask players in chat as well. During my time with Last Epoch, people have been so helpful answering questions, so ask away. Which brings me to the next point. Start with crafting items as soon as possible to get a better understanding of the crafting system. This is something I have neglected, and honestly that was a big mistake. I highly recommend using the in-game guide to get a basic understanding of the crafting system and go from there. Basically, you can change or upgrade by using crafting materials, which you will find loads of while playing the game. Using crafting to your advantage will make it way easier to overcome certain enemies, so start as soon as possible. One neat thing is that you don't even have to go to town, simply press F to open the crafting window. Speaking of crafting materials, I'm usually the kind of person who doesn't read any manuals, so I kind of overlooked this neat feature in the inventory window, and I'm pretty sure that's also the case for other players. The inventory window contains a button you can press to automatically store your crafting materials. It doesn't matter how many times I push this button, it's still exciting to see. So make sure you don't have a stash tab that looks like this. Every single crafting item is stored in a crafting inventory, so don't worry about losing anything. And since we're still on the topic of crafting, don't pick up every single item in order to sell them. To be honest, the gold value is not worth it and it will only fill up your inventory. It's better to use the forge and use a rune of shattering on an item in order to create crafting materials. You can find these runes while killing enemies, but also on NPCs, so be sure to look at the shop inventory every now and then. Don't shatter every single item though. As a spellcaster you're probably not very interested in strength, so it's a better idea to use those runes of shattering on other items. Last Epoch has a very in-depth loot filter you can customize, so it's a good idea to learn the basics. With the loot filter, you're able to create rules in order to show or hide items under certain conditions. You're also able to recolor items and more. To be honest, it's a very powerful tool for chasing upgrades, and it removes some visual clutter while playing the game. If you don't want to invest too much time in building your own filter, you'll also have the option to import one from another player. I will leave a link down below in the description to Heavy's casual loot filters for all classes. They offer a great starting point for beginners. One more tip regarding loot filters. By holding X, you can also temporarily disable the loot filter. And last but not least, the final tip would be to not sleep on side quests. Aside from experience, these quests will reward you with passive points and idle slots from time to time, which will make your character even more powerful by giving you the option to slot in idols with extra stats. Most side quests only take a small detour, so it's definitely worth your time. And one more bonus tip that might be useless on full release. If you step through the town portal and return to the area after doing your business in town, you might notice that enemies respawn. I believe that's a bug and it's going to be changed, but I'm not completely sure, so you have been warned. These were the things I wish I knew when I started playing Last Epoch for the first time. If you have any extra tips, let me know in the comments, and if you enjoy more role-playing games, you might want to watch this video. See you in the next one. Bye bye.